the depth of aluminium.
Thickness.
Yes.
Okay. I'm such a pedant when I'm talking to Chris.
But I like you holding me to...
Now, Chris, you've said that sentence, but what do you actually mean?
Because you said the other day that someone was the pariah of...
And I meant Paragon.
Yeah.
I'm going to use Paragon as what... You pulled me up about it. There wasn't even anyone else
The
here.
thing is, he's brutal. Like, I'll write a piece of content, and he goes through, and there'll be one typo, and he's like... Just spots it straight away.
Throw it out.
I sent that article for Muslim Fitness off to a couple of friends.
Muslim Fitness.
Muslim Fitness, did you just call it?
Yeah.
That's what it's called, isn't it?
Muslim Fitness.
Oh, Muslim.
Muslim Fitness. Is there actually a...
I
This
bet there
tastes
is.
different to the other day.
Same one.
Weird. Tastes like pear. It's not pear.
There
It
is a
says
pear
on the
one.
front.
Apple.
Yeah.
The pear one's lovely.
Yeah. Very caffeinated, though.
Heavily caffeinated.
Yeah.
That's the thing. You are, because of your severe and chronic...
I feel like I'm trying to dock a spaceship. with the...
Let's not, because we talked about docking last time and it went on for ages.
Oh, yeah. Love docking.
So we've got a choice of what we're going to talk about today. I think confidence.
No, hold on. What were you saying? Chris said pariah.
Is that
the end of it?
I meant Paragon.
Right.
I meant Paragon. Yeah, there you go, on the floor. Thank you. So, yet again, we're videoing, and everything now is going on YouTube. People who are listening, you're going to be able to subscribe on YouTube, and I'm going to be one of those people who says, don't forget to subscribe soon. However, you've worn the same pants that you did for Love Island.
So it looks as though we recorded all of these in the same position. We're even in the same position.
Yeah.
I think Johnny might be wearing similar
It's
clothes.
daylight now, though.
It is. So
Similar-ish. I'm actually wearing different jeans, t-shirt and jumper.
I've got pastel pair of shorts on as well.
Okay. Well,
See, all
Johnny
that
always just wears
we're
grey.
doing to the people that are
grey
just
and blue.
people that are just listening now are just getting these little tidbits of
Maybe I should go on the YouTube channel.
maybe I
Open loop, open loop, open loop.
Yeah, exactly.
It'll need to be closed.
I want to know what shade of pastel are those shorts at Christmas?
I'm going to have to go and subscribe and
They
like all the
lilac. Are they
videos.
lilac?
They're a kind of lilac, yeah. But I mean, we don't want to give too much away.
No.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's really quite difficult to tell whether they are in fact lilac.
Yeah,
it's
that's
really interesting.
I
colour.
also desperately need a haircut, but that's by the by. So we've got
when your hair grows, does it just grow?
it just gets larger, doesn't get longer, it
uniformly?
gets larger. Yeah, so it's like a privet hedge. You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you'd just be able to
Do
if you had a
cut with scissors.
yeah. So
No,
it needs
you
to
can't use the.
Yeah, you can. So you can shave it at the sides and the back, but it needs to be wet and then uniform.
I still think you need something exciting to be doing.
I had an afro for 8 years.
Yeah, but that's not. You can't just ride off that now.
We haven't actually. Can we introduce the fact that you're growing a top knot to the people of
Absolutely.
podcast world?
Yeah.
So
Podcast land.
podcast land. Me and Yusuf decided that Johnny needed just a little bit more edge.
So can you explain the theory behind this, or the basis that this was coming from? Because I think that's.
I'll let you conceptualize.
Right. To start with, I have a friend because I'm too close to the mic.
You've leaned in, but it's at the correct distance.
I'll just
from all
keep
of us.
Okay. I have two friends that I believe are equally attractive, but on different ends of the male autism spectrum. So Chris is
Autism.
of the two ends of the attractiveness spectrum.
Okay.
So Chris and
Why
David.
do you say autism? Do you mean autism?
It's just another spectrum, isn't it? So
Oh, I see. Right. You're not saying Chris is autistic.
actually, I think Chris and David are probably on the same end of the autism spectrum. I'll leave that up to you guys to decide which end. Anyway, both equally attractive, but Chris is very symmetrical, chiseled, muscular, that kind of a sports gear look. And David is very gap year, silk kimono, lip ring, that kind of look. But so both of them, despite being on both ends of the fashion spectrum, both gave me a series of fashion pointers that aligned. And you think, well, if two people with good fashion sense but on different ends agree on that, then it must be quite a good piece of advice.
Can you run us through the recommendations that were given to you?
So burn the green high tops. I mean, for me, I'm a low hanging fruit for fashion advice. It was
There was so much to be made right so quickly.
Exactly, it's like easy pickings. But burn the green high tops, get rid of all of your purple cardigans, all 15 of them. Stop
So much maroon.
So
There was just so much maroon
Stop
in your
wearing
wardrobe.
corduroy.
Yeah.
Grow a beard, get a skin fade, get a nose stud or a nose ring, and tattoo. Done.
Your pronunciation of corduroy is so precise. Can you do it again?
Very Marks and Spencer. Corduroy.
Isn't that brilliant? Can you corduroy?
Corduroy. Is that what it is?
I think so.
I thought it was corduroy.
I thought it was corduroy as well.
But I think
if we've got
he's
you,
pronouncing it correctly.
if we've got you on something, I'm going to be really satisfied after Paragon Pariah.
You're just being racist just because I'm Arab.
Yeah,
anyway,
that's true.
so
He says,
Corduroy.
Akbar. Webinar.
actually, in the Mike Israel podcast, number 67,
Propane Fitness.
it was saying it was the he was the founder of RPE, and I was very pirate about it. So anyway, Chris's observation and David's of Jonny is that he's very Abercrombie, very Hollister, from top to bottom, very clean cut, square head, symmetrical haircut, just
Jeans and jumper.
Lot
friend.
of navy, lot of thin knit, long sleeve tops.
which is fine, but it's all together. It's too much because Jonny is clean shaven, square. Everything's too clean, and so you need one thing just to take the edge off or to provide some
add
edge,
edge. Yeah.
which in their unanimous case was a top knot.
So I don't think David advised on the top knot necessarily.
I think
David agrees with the top knot.
me and Chris were like,
We were idea gen. We did the brand generation for it, and then I think David came
just
in as
went,
he came in as a consultant, didn't he, in his elephant pants, and
I think he said...
he put down his ukulele.
he's still annoyed at me for not explaining to you that. So Chris came round. David had a girl in his room, and we heard guitar playing through the room. The next morning, David was like, "Oh, Chris was there," and I was like, "Yeah, he heard you playing the guitar." And he's like, "That wasn't me. I'm not a wanker. Oh God, text him now and tell him
who was it?
Because it looks like he's just had this girl around. Like, oh yeah, I'll just impress you with my guitar skills,
Yeah,
man.
I do my vibes. Yeah.
So what was it?
Listen,
playing.
darling. Yeah. You want
Straw hat, flip-flops.
You want to hear what they play?
Serenade you, yeah.
Honestly, man. Yeah, no. Listen, like it's just straight from Thailand. Yeah, you've never heard this vibe before.
Wonderwall, man. Like, oh my God. Yeah, so he was like vociferously like, tell Chris.
Yeah, he wanted to track back. So yeah, we wanted to get. What I like about the idea of you having a top knot is everything else is going to stay the same.
He's not going to change.
I'm totally open to an overhaul.
Really?
Well,
No, you're not. You were really reluctant to the top knot.
So the reason is moral hazard.
Do you think that do you think the top knot's a gateway drug?
I feel like
You're gonna have to explain moral hazard.
okay. So you would experience absolutely no downside if it was terrible. Would you? You
Upside of amusement, but
you only have upside to gain. I have not
to
only
live with it.
not only the journey of growing hair long enough to put in a mini ponytail on top of my head, whilst simultaneously keeping the sides and back of my hair very short. If it looks shit by that, so there's the time in the middle where it's going to look shit regardless.
You've said that, but it's looking better.
If it looks shit at the end, then you two will find it hilarious, I imagine, and I'm like, fuck's sake, I'm gonna have to go to the hairdresser.
So I think you need enough faith in us as friends that we would tell you if it.
Well, so
got to that point.
here we are.
Yeah. How long has it been since you've had the top of your hair cut?
12 weeks.
That's a long time.
I mean,
You must have had it really short before, because it doesn't look that much longer.
It's
now.
just
I think
because-
it's because it's like slicked back.
Yeah.
Right?
So
It's getting long.
it is
I
long.
guess because when it's
It's
off to
getting
the
long.
side.
Like when I wake up and the centre of my head is just vertical block of hair, perfectly
sent me a
square.
picture.
At the top of
Yeah,
SpongeBob's head.
Yeah, which is prohibitive because I used to be able to wake up, not shower, leave the house fine. Whereas now I'm like, fucking hell, I look like fucking Hey Arnold. So I'm gonna have to do something. I have to.
We're just going to wear it backwards.
I can't even like go like to the petrol station, like like you sometimes.
I mean, what, in case people see you?
Well, just because people go like, what the fuck's he
So
doing?
fucking...
There's a difference between being like careful about your image and
Not wanting to scare the public.
I'll send you a photo.
Okay. That sounds
Send
good.
you a photo. But yeah.
So you've agreed to get the top knot, which I think is
If you want to take me shopping, I'll happily go.
fine. But
It was a great decision.
What was the response? Because your girlfriend is sort of, I'd class her as like sort of a pretty straight up and down kind of not super edgy girl, and
She's almost the female version of how Johnny dresses, but I think slightly more edgy.
She's a lot more into fashion than I am. Like I don't really care.
but still like chartered accountant. It's fairly sort of straight laced.
She's not just come back from Thailand.
Yeah,
or
exactly. So
running like a yoga retreat or something. Yeah.
And I think what you thought was going to happen when me and Yusuf suggested that you get a top knot was that you were going to be
I went straight up my nose.
you were going
Thanks,
to
Knocko.
end up with support for the counter case from your girlfriend.
So you could then bring that back to us and be like, see,
Look, guys,
Becca thinks
and
it's stupid.
what actually happened when you suggested getting a top knot to a girl that you thought was going to say unequivocally say no?
She said, "I really like top knots. Why didn't you get a tattoo sleeve as well?"
So it was not only, yes, I agree, but go a step
Go a
further.
bit further. Do something even more permanent.
How shocked were you when that happened?
I think just disbelief. So the first thing I thought was something's going on here. Like they've spoken to her. Like honestly, that's what I thought. I was like, "There's a
Chris and Yusuf have front run Becca.
Yeah. And so there was a few lines of defense. So like I asked a few other people, and like generally the response was like, "Yeah, man, go for it." I asked David. I pretty much expected him to say yes. My last line of defense was,
The hairdresser.
asked my hairdresser, who was like initially was like he's joking, and then when I was like, no, I'm being serious. 2 of my friends have suggested it. She then said, which 2? Initially she was like resisting. Which 2 of your friends? I was like, business partner, and I think he has to have my best interests at heart, because if I do something really stupid
And then we look silly on video.
on the internet,
Directly affects his revenue.
yeah. And I said the other guy is called Chris Williamson. She started blushing, and they just immediately agreed.
She said she opened it to the table in the room as well.
Yeah, so then like the rest of the hairdressers is like chipping in,
Crowdsourced it though.
and then everyone was getting excited about teaching me how to put my hair in a bobble. And
Fine.
Becca's brother, interestingly, has had a top knot.
Okay.
So I was speaking to him about it.
What it's like.
He
Life
said
with the top knot.
he would have kept it. His girlfriend didn't like it. He said the worst thing about it is it's hard to fit all of your hair into the band.
Just grow it longer.
Bobble. You have to like clip bits.
Grow it longer.
But I mean, this is it's all part of the journey.
Fine. So, are we going to talk about confidence today? Kind of carries on from that in a kind of a roundabout way, I suppose.
So
I don't really get. I'm kind of handing the table over to you guys a little bit here, because I think it's
We wanted to
topic
quiz
that-
you on this, I think.
Maybe
most.
you've been pushing this topic for a little while, and we keep on missing it.
I think it's what everybody would like to have. I think even people who are confident often don't think they're confident.
The imposter syndrome.
Yeah. Because I think
Rife,
for
isn't
someone who is truly confident, that usually, well, if they come across confident, usually if they ask them, that deep down there's an insecurity that they think is forefront of their personality, but everyone else just sees confidence.
Yeah. Well, I think it's the people who are wholly unconfident that have the most brash, forthcoming.
Yeah. Like a compensatory.
Yeah.
Like, I need to wear this front to appear confident.
It's interesting because I got a miniature book from School of Life. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll see that a lot of the time I quote stuff by Alain de Botton, who is the philosopher and the guy behind School of Life. Unbelievable YouTube channel. You should check it out. And I bought the smallest book that I think you could buy. It's 79 pages and type, like font size 20.
Is it like...
It's just a very, very small, very thin book, and it's called Competence, and it goes through a number of the elements he thinks in the modern world that contribute to somebody's confidence. And the number one, or what appears to be the prevailing element, is that people who are confident they don't hold themselves with too much dignity.
So I saw his video on it last night, actually, after your recommendation. It was in my capture process, Life Hacks 103. Put it into my car, and I watched it last night. And it talks about, I think, was it Erasmus or... who says that we have to embrace our folly and our ridiculousness and realise that...
In praise of folly is in praise of folly is
there we go.
You're very good at that.
Embracing silliness.
Yeah.
So I think that he was saying, like, we all, as soon as we recognize that and we stop holding ourselves to the standards of our strengths, and we realize that if you're in a foreign country and you ask someone for directions thinking that you're going to get shot down because they'll be like, oh, what a prick, silly tourist, and you just accept that that's the case anyway, then it's a pleasant surprise if you don't. It's quite stoic, which kind of makes sense, but I think if you focus your attention way too much on how silly and crap you are, as Brits, we're already very good at that, I think.
Yeah.
And so the tendency then is to become so self-deprecating that it almost becomes a reality or a truth. And we know that to try and say this in the least esoteric terms of like, what you focus on becomes your reality, man. But like the reticular activating system in your brain will seek patterns, in the sense that even if you're listening right now, if you look around in your room for anything red, suddenly your brain tunes into all red items and tunes out everything else. And if you close your eyes and then say, right, tell me what things in your room were blue, you tuned out to them and you didn't notice them because you were focusing on something else. And so
is this like the think of something you're grateful for argument? Like the gratitude journal is, if you are focusing on being grateful, then you can't be anxious or
I definitely
nervous.
I'm aware this is a little bit of a departure, but the doing a gratitude journal I've only done it for the first time this year, and the only way I've been able to do it is by buying one that only requires 3 minutes on the morning and 3 minutes at night.
You bought the palm off of the 5-minute journal, didn't you?
I did. It's called the 6-minute diary.
It's unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely. How someone hasn't gone cease and desist letter, like express overnight
the 5-minute journals.
Actually, it's an extra minute long, so it's...
we've called it a diary, not a journal.
Genius.
So, yeah, and doing that, man, like today in the gym, here's a perfect example. So, in the gym today, I was talking to another one of the guys that trains. He said that he hadn't had a lot of sleep and he hadn't had a bunch of other stuff. That meant he wasn't too keen about, or wasn't feeling very confident about how his session was going to go. What I said was, well, you can flip that on its head and you can think, right, I have the opportunity today to do a training session and test myself when I'm underprepared, when I'm underslept, when I'm undereaten. Okay, how do I perform
So
under a
don't
little
hold
bit of
yourself to the
duress?
baseline of...
Well, just
working at your peak.
turn the situation on its head and say, okay, what I saw as a weakness is actually an opportunity. This hasn't been optimal in terms of preparation. However, I can go into this and think, right, well, how can I use that to my advantage? Right, well, maybe if I've got a competition and I go in with a little bit of flu, or I go in with whatever it is, I know that I can still work to a very high degree capacity. That doesn't really tie back to the confidence thing too much, but it's...
I think
that breeds confidence. Because I think the more that you show yourself that you're able to complete something in spite of not feeling like you want to, the more you just settle into this.
It becomes
it'll be fine regardless.
I think positivity, and you can Rhonda fucking Byrne. We can talk until you're blue in the face about the power of positivity and stuff like that. But the bottom line is that your thoughts end up becoming an echo chamber for more thoughts, as far as I'm concerned, and momentum's a really, really big deal. Like, catastrophic thinking in the spiral down is often a lot easier than the journey up, so to speak. But the analogy would be you build bricks one on top of the other, right? So, like,
I think we have to define it as well, because the English language is quite clumsy with the word confidence. In that,
what does confidence mean to you?
Because to say I don't feel confident in my session is very different to someone being a confident person, which would be the lack of social anxiety in that case. Yeah. And I think there's multiple dimensions of it, similar to willpower or discipline. The Steve Pavlina came up with 6 subcategories of discipline, and they don't necessarily overlap. And you could have very good training discipline. We know people that are really good at hitting the gym 6 times a week, but they completely lack discipline in another aspect of their personality, for example. So
it's one of the reasons why I think so a lot of people judge like an overweight person or someone who's like poorly dressed, and they immediately have all sorts of assumptions on what that person's like, but their house might be really tidy, they might be really productive at work.
There's research to show that people judge photos of obese people as having certain character traits.
Lazy.
So what does confidence mean to you? In the context that we're talking about here, what does confidence mean to you?
In the context that I wanted to pick your brains on, it's the social aspect of confidence, because I think you excel in this particularly. Maybe it's part of your constitution, maybe it's part of your job and you've had to maintain that. And as we talked about in Love Island as well, you were very much able to switch it on when you wanted to. I guess that's kind of putting on a certain mask, but there was no holdback. And being on TV, for example, is the quickest way to reveal the cracks, I think, in someone's shyness.
Do you think
confidence.
It's the is what Jordan Peterson when he talks about mastery and saying that it's you do something and it turns out how you expect consistently. And like when you can do that, then you could say you've mastered something.
It's the world appearing the way that you planned it to be. Is it not something along those lines? It's mastery is a prediction of the world coming true. Yeah, it's your prediction of the world coming true.
Chaos is the opposite as a result. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like you think you'll get a promotion, you get a promotion.
You get a promotion.
You think you'll end up in a relationship you want and get married and it all works out.
Yeah.
So I think...
So that's estimation of ability in a certain...
Well, accurately predicting.
Can you be confident without that occurring though? Because there's people who are confident and then don't end up achieving and just have got blind confidence and
so I think I suppose
and then Trump, who maybe didn't have the you might not have the technical competence, but as a result of your belief, you almost fudge people or fool the world into reacting a certain way because of the veneer that.
So it's self-belief, isn't it? I suppose, rather than related to an outcome, it's like even if you think like I'm class at football, like I'm terrible at football, but if I really believe, like if I'm really confident I'm class at football, it doesn't really matter what happens because I just continue being confident that I'm good at football.
Yeah.
So that's delusional. As in, like, that's the definition of delusion, because it's a single belief that is held in the face of any evidence.
But is that not
to the contrary?
Could that still be confidence, though? I think is the question.
I suppose it can. It's just delusional confidence, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I guess what JP said, like the confidence that is grounded in reality versus.
Listen to the sound of that.
So my hips are really tight. I rom-wadded today as well.
Did you?
I just trained and...
I know you did. I saw you. So... so much pain. Yeah, it's interesting. I think that you could look at confidence as... And first off, you guys seem to think that I'm some sort of paragon.
The pariah of
I think you're a pariah.
Am I? Okay. Am I a bastion?
I think you're a... No. Can't think of anything.
Never mind. Of confidence, for me, I really, really don't think that I am, and I think that the capacity for someone to play the game, so to speak, of being confident or being out, I think that you can actually quite easily conflate confidence with being extroverted. Because you can play at being extroverted very briefly in short stints. We said this on the Love Island podcast. I'm on the front door of a nightclub and I can do a 1 rep max, 20-second max effort burst of, yeah, mate, you're all right, mate. What's going on, mate? And then, yeah, exactly. It's interval training.
And then over the years, you've increased your work capacity of that.
It's progressive overload.
Your lactate.
Do like 100 in a night, 200 in a night, then maybe 30-second interactions.
Yeah, exactly. Push it up
So
a
is
little bit,
is that how you see it then? Because I honestly think you are the crouton of confidence.
Like soups and crouton.
Yeah, exactly. So
is that...
Just wanting to...
It's the sort of thing where I believe you that's the correct use of that
the
word.
etymology of crouton originally came from the 1700s, where the monks were describing...
This is exactly what we think all the time.
It's an Edwardian term.
So when if you were to go tonight, if we were going to a big event, there's going to be loads of people there, lots of networking, let's say without alcohol, for the sake of it.
Fine.
Lots of just speaking to people you've never met before.
Yeah.
Does the prospect of that make you feel anxious?
No.
Not at all.
No.
So I think that is confidence in that setting, which I think is what
you can feel not that. That's like saying you go into a gym. Are you weak? No, I'm not weak. Therefore, you are strong. That's not the case.
So it's like situation specific, or even you go into a powerlifting meet in the northeast compared to
Worlds. I mean more that what you're saying is that you are not something which isn't what we're talking about.
Like the
therefore, you are the thing we're
something.
talking about. Yeah, it's not.
Well, unless they're opposites.
But confidence is the absence of anxiety in a certain situation.
Okay, so in that case, to that degree, yeah. One of the things that I wanted to try and get across, I was thinking about how to how to explain this during the podcast. And certainly up until probably about Love Island, maybe a little bit after that, my confidence was mostly born of my profession, being a club promoter, having to deal with people who are super, super high energy. And you kind of need to match that or else you get washed away. You need to make a name for yourself. With social media and stuff like that, people can front all the time. Like, can front as in fronting, not confront. So
it's so true, actually. You see people that give it the big one and talk, have all the talk on written form social media, and you see them in person and
they can't even look you in the eye.
Yeah.
But that's what I love now. So I love challenging people like that. And I think, again, one of the main things, and I said it on Love Island, it was not on Love Island, I said it on the podcast about Love Island. It was one of my concluding thoughts was that speaking the truth, for me, it sounds like a JBP sermon all over again. But speaking the truth for me was the one thing that liberated me from any remaining feelings of unconfidence. And the fact of the matter is that if you tell the truth in any given situation with regards to confidence, you're kind of bulletproofed from anyone calling you out or from you feeling silly about anything.
This is the Mark Manson and Paul Moore approach of Mark Manson saying vulnerability is strength, because if you can be fully vulnerable, even telling a joke that might not be well received in a social situation is expressing your vulnerability because you're hanging yourself out to dry potentially.
Yeah.
And then other people are the ones that decide whether
absolutely
that is
it's a very
acceptable or not.
endearing quality as well. I think one of the main things that I wish that I'd known a little while ago, especially with regards to confidence, was that confidence and strength are not two of the same things. Like, showing that you're this indomitable spirit who never gets swayed and never doubts himself and stuff like that, that's not necessarily confidence. Confidence is telling people exactly how you do feel about things. So over the last 3 years, I've made it a conscious effort to try and be more forthcoming when I do have doubts about myself, specifically through social media. It's a platform that I've got where I can speak to more people more quickly than doing it to whoever's in the office at the time. But even with stuff like that, having the courage of your convictions, I guess, is one of the main things that has changed for me over the last 3 years. Previously, I was able to play the role of someone who was confident. Now, I genuinely do believe that I've got a level of confidence that I haven't ever had before in my life. And I do think that almost all of that is attributed to the fact that I just don't care about whether or not someone thinks what I say is silly. And that is purely due to the fact that I can tell the truth. Because when you start to make up lies and fibs, little white lies, and
Porkies.
little porky pies.
What, to try and polish the way that you come across?
Because then what happens is the dynamic changes from someone not liking you to I should have constructed this situation in a different manner to make that person like me.
Yeah.
And there's this wonderful sense of liberation when you just speak your own truth, whatever that may be, and put it out there. And then, okay, well, that guy didn't like me. Well, fine. That's fine. That's me. It is me.
I think, this, we'll have to maybe discuss this in more detail on the singleness podcast, but I know a few people that got heavily into pickup artistry. They're really technical, like, oh, you've got to do this thing and then neg them and then alpha the thing and then and it's like all it did was so I got two friends that were really into it, and they both became quite depressed and jaded with the whole thing because, as you said, it made them construct a persona that was attractive to women.
It was a veneer, wasn't it? It was a
for
facade.
24 hours. And then when they realised who they are, it created more of a divide. And it's like, oh shit, actually, like, who I really am is so different to what women would find attractive that I just feel even worse about myself. But yeah, we'll have to...
Yeah, I think so. One of the first things that I think, this should not read or hear or watch like Confidence 101, because I don't understand the vast majority of the principles behind it.
But you need to have confidence that you have a good understanding of confidence.
It's just fucking never ending, is it?
But you do, though, because you have results to show that you're a confident person. Like, if you feel like a confident person and other people think that you're a confident person, chances are...
So Darren Brown thinks that he's like, confidence doesn't exist. He says there is no such thing as a stable personality trait called confidence, because if you put someone in a room on their own, they can't be confident or not confident.
Did you not put your phone on silent before this podcast?
He was confident that it wouldn't go off, and so.
Can you go and turn it off, please?
I'm confident that I can.
So, do you think that, given what you said before about being able to put yourself out on the rail, I suppose, is seeking advice from other people? Where does that fit in?
Can we just stay on the truth thing for a second, or do you want to come back to the truth?
Go for it.
So, I know you don't like him, but Garrett J. White, his fundamental number one principle.
Very briefly, tell us who Garrett J. White is.
He runs a program that is pretty much geared at helping men who are successful in other areas of their life become 4-dimensional, as he calls it. So people
overweight businessmen who are divorced or failing marriages, but are very rich, but maybe haven't got the other dimensions of their life.
Okay. Yeah. So what does he say about truth?
So his core starting point is to stop lying and to start telling the truth about like the way that you feel, what you want, what's going on.
Why?
He feels that people experience an unpleasant reality and sedate away from what's actually happening.
100%.
So rather than like, okay, I'm fat, my marriage is shit, I hate my kids, my job's just this place I go to numb out, I take loads of drugs, I get drunk on the weekend. It's like just avoiding the pain rather than stepping into the
very
pain.
American things about, how are you, sir? Fantastic.
Thank you very much, sir. I'm fine. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
So, but what's something that he talks about, because I think the concept of telling the truth is quite a difficult one to get your head around.
Have you read Lying by Sam Harris?
No.
Add it to the list as well.
Man,
that lying.
Anyone who's listening, Lying by Sam Harris is a 1-hour read. It's the shortest book he's written, and it is a conceptual justification for why you should never ever lie, ever.
Okay.
In no situations. Now, there's a difference between lying through omission and lying through commission. Mm-hmm. He says that there are times where not telling the full story can be justified.
Right.
Kids ask about Santa Claus at 2 years old. If you outright lie to them about it, then their trust in you is going to be reduced. Mm-hmm. However, there's some tact that can be used. But the restriction of lying, including white lies, which are the worst ones as far as he's concerned, that read for anyone who needs something to get themselves stuck into, it's 1 hour, or you can audible it 1 hour and 5 minutes.
I've been looking for my next.
That's it. Lying by.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It is, but you
click audio player.
Yeah, straight in.
Via Yemen.
Straight through the Jordan servers. And
yeah. So Garrett White says.
Well, so he talks about being totally honest with yourself and everyone in your community as a starting point before you, because people try and sort of shoehorn personal development on top of something that like their life's just in a mess.
Yeah, if you were to look at sort of Maslow's hierarchy of needs or a hierarchy of confidence, before you can be outgoing and extroverted, you need to first be secure within yourself.
Yeah.
And this is this really, really cool quote, and I can't remember where it's coming from, but I will track it down. Well, I was reading an article a little while ago, and it was talking about people that say, I am self-conscious. A lot of people that go into social situations, especially if you're introverted, can say, I'm very self-conscious. Yeah. But the term's wholly incorrect. They don't mean, when they say, I feel self-conscious, they don't mean that. What they mean is, I am conscious of other people being conscious of me.
Yeah.
Not conscious of yourself.
Or I'm worrying about other people's perception of me.
Yeah.
And the common advice to fix that is to focus your attention outwards and, ask people how they're doing, and rather than stay in this ruminative ball of
Absolutely. So I think, to try and have a few concrete takeaways, some of the things that I've done that helped me with increasing confidence, little bit of stuff that actually crosses over with pickup artistry. If there is anyone who's listening, we want to do a couple of episodes that include pickup artistry. I'd love to have a guest on who knows the stuff inside out. So RSD Max or anyone like that if you're listening, or anyone else who's further down the tree.
What's the guy who wrote the game?
Neil Strauss.
Get him on.
Well,
get him, Mark Manson.
Fine.
Get a lot of them.
Yeah. Well, RSD Tyler was born
different
at
styles
the back
of people as well.
Yeah, for sure. So one of the things that they talk about is power stance, adopting a power stance when you go into a room. Have you heard about this?
Yeah, so I did a lecture on this last week to the World Posture Association.
It was on power stances.
That included part. So it was saying that posture is regulated by hormonal, cognitive, visual, and vestibular control, but the power stance thing is supposed. So basically, when
stand up straight with your shoulders back.
Yeah. So the original TED talk in the study was based on the fact that they made people go into a sham interview, stand in a power stance for 2 minutes, and then they measured their salivary cortisol testosterone ratio, and it was higher in those who stood in a power stance first. What they found later is they repeated the study, and there was some statistical manipulation that went on in the first one. So there's actually no evidence of hormonal changes, but I don't think we're looking to elicit hormonal change with a power stance. We're looking to change the mental state. Mm-hmm. And we know that people's ability to believe their own thoughts, positive or negative, about themselves is worse when they're sat hunched over looking depressed. And when they're sat more upright, they have more confidence in their thoughts.
I'm a lion. I'm a warrior.
I'm
king.
a lion. I can.
Right, I see what you mean.
Because I curl 50
rather than
kilos,
I'm a lion.
I can fight a lion, and
I mean, the whole first chapter of 12 Rules for Life is not a million miles away from this, is it?
Lobsters.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think hormones or not, it does have an effect on both the way that people perceive you. I mean, that's kind of a self-evident thing, but also the way that you process your own thoughts and how much you believe yourself.
What is that stance then?
Just upright, normal stance.
Feet wide apart, hands on hips if you can, without looking like a superhero.
Really, hands on hips?
Well, I find that, like, so when I was doing this...
When someone one foot up on a
like
step.
Captain
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just... so definitely when I was... playing around with different tactics for improving my confidence in social situations, that was one of the things that I used to try and do. And whether it works or not, it's on a hormonal level, I'm unsure, but it's just again about sort of, this is me, here I am, I don't have anything to worry about. I think one of the main things that you can take away from confidence is that the desire for us all to hold on to our own dignity is one of the key elements of why people have a lack of confidence. And the problem is that we see everybody else's lives through an increasingly now with social media filtered highlight reel version.
Yeah.
Yet you see your own life from this
the negatives.
Yeah, but you see all the blunders, right? Mm. But in the confidence book, I think it might be Erasmus again as well, says something to the effect of
Erasmus? Can't remember.
Erasmus. It is okay. Erasmus. From the highest to the lowest, we must remember even kings and princes shit. Mm-hmm. And you think, well...
The highlight reel thing's such a good point as well, because that's people like editing, like selectively editing and filtering and everything.
It's the absolute best version, isn't it, of everything? Otherwise, why would it be on social media?
It's the complete contrary to the truth as well. Like, you're not speaking the truth forward necessarily. Like, you have the opportunity to lie at every point, and this is where you end up with the people who have the facade that runs away with them. Mm. You know, oh, hang on, like, this character's got away from me so much now that the me who I am, I can't be anymore. You go, well, what does that mean? That means that the person who I was or who I really truly am isn't good enough, and now I've got to play it to this other person. And you're thinking all the time, what would Love Island Chris say? What would confident Chris say?
Exhausting.
And, yeah, terrifying. So, yeah, definitely... definitely need to remember that dignity and a strong grasp on it is not something that you should be concerned about. Again, going back to the pick-up artistry thing, one of the stories that I've heard is if you're with a group of friends and then you go, right, I'm going to go and talk to that group of girls, and you get what's called KB'd, get knocked back from a group of girls, and you come back over and all of your mates are like, oh mate, like, how sad's that? And you're like, well, hang on a second, like.
I was the only one that expressed my vulnerability by
none of you even had the fucking courage to go over there. So what does that say about you? Like, who's got more confidence? The guy that comes back having been knocked back and has a laugh about it with their friends? Because we have to remember.
Do you think the friends are testing that person by going like,
I think it's a show of vulnerability on their side. I think it's them going, fucking hell, I can't believe he went over and talked to those girls. I wouldn't dare have had the confidence to go over and do
expressing
it
in a
myself.
laddie way.
I must therefore cover my own tracks and pretend that I would have done and had success as well.
Yeah.
By drilling someone in.
But to have the confidence in the first place, to me, comes from a place of having past experience of doing something in it, working out quite well.
But again, that's confidence purely based on the result.
On experiences.
No, based on the outcome, which is the wrong way to look at it. Because you could go up to a group of girls every day for the rest of your life.
Just get KB'd.
And get KB'd all the time.
And
still have the confidence. And that's confidence. It's confidence
or is it?
Confidence is the lack. It's the lack of attachment to the outcome of that situation.
You're right, because that's even more confident. If you've been KB'd 100 times and you still go and do it with no fear, then
so how is that different to me thinking I'm good at football and being terrible?
So I suppose the being KB'd for the 101st time, 101st, is not. It can be independent of your belief about yourself. It could just be that you do it without fear. But yeah,
so it's the confidence to. I'm going to do this regardless of whether it works well or not.
It's a hard one, isn't it? I
think it's hard to define. Is confidence actually in that scenario resilience to it goes badly, but that doesn't affect my ability to do it again?
It's a lack of attachment to whether or not it goes well. That is it the four precepts or the four principles that
Don Miguel Ruiz.
Yeah, and is one of them that anyone's judgment of you is don't ever judge somebody on. Have you got this in your Scone book?
I think so.
Right. Well, one of them is essentially
the 4 agreements.
Yes, the 4 agreements. Yeah. That's it. One of them is essentially something along the lines of you getting it up.
Yeah.
Have you got
it?
I'm
going to butcher it if I try and.
Yeah. Well, it's the third one, I think.
Be impeccable with your word. Don't take anything personally.
That's it. That's the one. Don't take anything personally. Have you got
a summary of it somewhere?
Yeah, for that second one.
There's a Winston Churchill quote, which is, "Success is to move from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm."
Yeah.
Which I think is fantastic. Which
that's cool.
To me, that's what that is. It's like, I'm just going to follow through with this approach.
Well, they don't take anything personally when we're talking about the social situation is exactly correct there. So an analogy would be, we keep on going back to relationships, but it's the easiest one. But let's talk about, so you're going up to a friend, let's say you want to make friends, you're in a new city, you haven't ever been here before, and you go up to a group of similar aged guys, and you think, oh, well, these guys are dressed similar to me and they're the similar age to me, and maybe they've got similar interests. So you go up and you try and have a conversation with them, and they all sort of turn around and look at you weirdly and don't really reply and mumble something, and you have to shuffle off, and it was all a bit awkward. But you don't know what's just happened. Those guys could have literally just come from a wake. One of their dads could have just died. Someone could have just split up with them. One of them could have just found out that
they didn't like me. But
one of them's just found out that they've got a terminal illness, or anything could have happened. And you could go back 3 weeks later, and that same group of people could be in a different mindset. Something else might not have happened. And
so that's like staying positive about a situation, like something that goes badly. And instead of thinking, oh, fucking hell, I'm a piece of shit, like I'm worthless, you think, you know what, actually, probably nothing to do with me. It's like taking anything and just thinking, it's fine anyway.
Yeah. Well, it is. And again, with that, the only armour that you have to wear in that situation is speaking the truth. Because if you do anything short of speaking the truth, then you have... you've cultivated the character that you've put forward, and you've preened it in a manner that became elective, and that decision in which direction that you go affected the outcome, and that gives you cause to think twice about stuff, because you're like, hang on, what if I'd said this instead of that? What if I'd said, if I hadn't said this?
Strategizing rather than just saying, like, this is who I am. It's out of my control whether people respond negatively or positively to that.
100%.
And so I guess that. So I have quite a unorthodox view of so I believe desire precedes the feeling, which precedes the thought.
Explain that.
As opposed to the typical paradigm, which is the other way around. So I think that your core desires, so the wanting of approval, control, and safety, give rise to, so they're like the trunks of the tree, which is the analogy they use, give rise to the emotions which stem from wanting approval, control, or safety. And if those things are challenged, and then they provide the soil for the thoughts to come out. I'm mixing analogies, but basically tree trunk, desires, tree branches, emotions, leaves are thoughts.
Okay.
And so, for example, I used to be very nervous on camera because Jonny and I started Propane Fitness as a written blog, and we were just writing articles, and then suddenly we were like, oh,
safe behind a screen, right?
Safe behind a screen. We were just keyboard warriors that didn't lift, and we were, but then we were like, okay, the first step is you put up a topless photo online. It's a little bit scary, especially when people are looking at it in the office and so on. Then it was like, right, we need to do podcasts and videos. First time I did a video, I remember being petrified, had to re-record 25 times, and any little stumble, I'd be like, oh no, I'm going to edit it out and stuff, or re-record. And over time, I think just from a purely evolutionary or physiological basis that you apply repeated scary stimuli, you become less sensitive to them. And now, there's no fear to doing a video. Things like a live video where you see the little green light, you're like, right, 15,000 people, you're on. If you fuck up, like, that's it. You just have to roll with it.
Yeah.
And I remember that being really scary. But what's happened is, on a neurochemical basis, you're less reactive to that scary stimulus. And then as a result, your mind starts then justifying more positive thought patterns, which are, you know what, it doesn't matter, it's natural, everyone messes up, everyone stumbles over things, or whatever it is that your mind. So it's not that you changed your thoughts and therefore you became less fearful. It's that you changed the feeling, and then your thoughts about the subject changed as a result.
Yeah, it's a lovely concept.
I remember feeling like you were saying, first few videos, like, oh my god, what if this goes wrong?
Yeah.
And now, if something goes wrong, my first thought usually is like, if anyone takes the piss, like, you do a live video.
Good. Well,
like, it's
again with that. So this comes back to the thing about the vulnerability a little bit. That I think a lot of the time confidence is confused with strength or a lack of vulnerability, and that's totally not true. That vulnerability, and this is to anyone who wants to, anyone who's struggling to make friends. One of the best things that you can do is show your vulnerabilities and not your strengths to people. Because vulnerabilities are so endearing, and strengths just make you look like a well-to-do twat. Yeah.
Well, that
absolutely.
study that we talked about in the last one of the professor that gave a speech in a classroom of people, and they ran it twice. They split tested it. Only difference was at the start of one of them, the professor dropped the papers on the floor and picked them up, and people rated them liking the second professor much more than
just seems more honest.
Yeah.
The vulnerability is such a big deal, and that's the same. If something goes wrong, previously, when we were first doing these podcasts, I'm aware that this is only, into the teens of the episodes now. But at the very, very start, I would be hyper concerned about whether or not something was a blunder or something messed up. But that's just as much a part of the character as anything else. Obviously, if it was 5 minutes of that would be a little bit silly.
But this is your post hoc rationalization now.
Yeah.
Whereas if you had a blunder in episode 1, you'd be thinking, but now, like, because the feelings changed, your brain produces different thoughts about the subject. Maybe it rationalizes it as, you know what, people are just listening in their car, they're not going to care about a couple of seconds of blah, 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 whatever. So
But again, it adds character. Do you know what I mean? It all comes back, for me, it all comes back to speaking the truth. That if you're perfectly happy with what it is that you're putting forward, the truth that you're speaking and the person that you're being forward, so what? Like, it doesn't matter. But again, if you were, I was trying to play the role of X, that made me blunder. Shit, maybe if I'd tried to do the role of Y, that wouldn't have made me blunder, because it becomes discerning rather than just sort of like a straight line. There's really
a protection from that as well, though. Like, at least I wasn't showing the true me, and it was just the mask that got knocked down.
But I mean that's such a false. It's such a false economy that, like, the level of indestructibleness that you have, or invincibility that you have as a person, being truthfully and honestly yourself and trying to be as close to virtuous as possible, it's unbeatable. It's absolutely unbeatable.
It's counterintuitive, isn't it? But yeah.
Do you think there's any scenarios, So something that Garrett uses as an example when he decided, like, I'm just going to be totally honest about everything. He's buying something in a shop, standing at the till, and the lady goes, "How's your day, sir?" He goes, "Fucking shit, like fucking terrible. I've had a shit day," and like he's just says exactly what's on his mind, and he has the caveat as like honesty is best used when it's relevant to a situation. Whereas if you're walking along the street and you're like, "You're fucking fat,"
Was it
like, you weirdo?
Yeah.
Like that. Technically, you're telling the truth and you're being honest.
real,
but,
raw, and relevant?
yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a
So is there any situation like I think what I'm trying to get across is I think saying to someone who has no context, just tell the truth. That there has to be a lens with which that's put through.
course.
Otherwise, it's like you're going
insulting
to
people
end
in
up having a much worse experience of life.
Well, I mean, you brushed on autism earlier on. I mean, that's what. So yeah, I mean, I think you are right. You need to curate whatever it is that you're doing. I think that you can curate you can create your projection whilst not editing your persona for people. So
you can smoothen the delivery.
Yeah. Like when I'm the way that I talk to people on the front door of a nightclub.
Madam, you're a bit overweight, rather than
you fucking fuck bitch. Like you said about the referentially looking back with this level of perspective on things that you can. Have you knocked something out?
No.
Because your legs are so long.
My knee's getting sore.
Is it?
I'm so
there's
confidence wrong. I know. It says your toes going blue.
Whatever.
Blue toe.
I just got bad circulation.
As long as you're confident it'll be okay.
It will be.
Well then,
It's a truthful thumb.
thumb.
Toe. Foot thumb.
Big toes and thumbs are very similar. Aren't they?
Foot thumb. So you have both read or listened to his Dark Materials, haven't you?
Mm-hmm.
And there's this concept in that which keeps on coming up. Anyone who hasn't, it's a series of books by Philip Pullman. They butchered it when they tried to turn the first one into a film called Northern Lights.
I don't think I've even seen that.
Yeah,
I watched half of it.
It was terrible. Considering that I was a massive fan of the book. Books, I think we all were.
They just really like Disneyfied it.
It was just shit. It was so shit, considering how brilliant that book series was.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's a fantasy novel series, 3 books long, and in it, this girl finds that she's able to do something naturally that is incredibly rare. Then, as she comes of age in puberty, she finds that she loses the skill. And during this conversation with kind of like the head matron of this particular discipline, she talks about this journey through unconscious grace to conscious ungrace to conscious grace. And this, a lot of the time, is what I feel like the journey through confidence can be like. That people may naturally have a particular capacity within a social situation. Then a few situations will occur that make them think, holy fucking shit, there's a lot on the line here. People can think I'm silly and this, that, and the other. They become conscious. They lose the skill. They lose the talent. And then the woman says it in the book. She says, it will take you a lifetime to learn, but your depth of understanding will be infinitely greater than it ever was before. And I think that with regards to a lot of pursuits that are to do with social skill is exactly what happens. So for instance, I remember, this is not like that, but I remember when I was about 5 years old, running and somersaulting off a diving board on holiday because I had absolutely no concept of fear. Then I remember being about 10 or 11 when I'd started swimming properly and had clonked my head off the side of a swimming pool a few times and thought, fucking way.
From the diving board?
Or, from whatever variety of accidents at
always knocked.
swimming class. Yeah, it's so painful. And thinking, there's fucking no way you're going to get me running. What if I slip? What if I do this, that, and the other? And then you think, right, okay, I now need to retrain myself to have this conscious grace. And it's the... No. It's that reflex from a little bit of trauma that can break down someone's natural capacity to do things.
Trading, like we talked about last time.
Yeah.
Exactly that.
Yeah. You said the best traders are often the newest traders are often the best ones.
They've got happy-go-lucky attitude, and they just
they trade as they feel rather than obsessing over every minor.
So you're now trying to get back to the same state of mind you were in when you first started.
Yeah, I'm in conscious ungrace right now, and then Yeah, speaking of diving boards, I don't know if you've ever jumped off like the really high one.
It's never a board,
Properly,
is it?
it's just a platform.
Yeah,
Oh god!
Really, I remember like it's like a proper slap in the ball sack. Like if your feet are even slightly apart.
Yeah,
I think after that it was like, you know,
I did
water is hard
a-
at high speed.
take one hit in the nuts and
Yeah, well, I mean, if there's anything that'll take the wind out of you.
instant nausea, isn't it? It's weird.
The slow growth.
How's that connected? How's that helpful? You get hit in the bollocks, you feel sick. Great.
If you understand the physiological response of being kicked in the nads, please tweet me so that we can understand it for the next one.
Might require multiple tweets, but please.
It's fine. Do it.
Do you not understand it?
So there'll be a referred pain element, I think. Like, so for if you have air under the diaphragm or liver swelling, you can get shoulder tip pain because the same nerve that innervates the diaphragm also innervates the skin at the tip of the shoulder.
That's interesting.
But
So,
why? Do you two experience nausea? You get kicked in the balls?
I haven't been kicked in the balls for ages. When was the last time you got kicked in the nuts?
Be a long time. I have a memory of someone swimming beneath me and coming up like that, head into balls, and that was
no.
like I had to get out the pool,
That's it.
and you're like,
It's one of those moments you realise how hard someone's head is as well.
yeah,
Like, I headbutted someone the other day, actually, and yeah.
In the what?
Just in the head.
how?
Oh god.
What was happening?
He was a bit drunk and didn't look where he was going, and we ended up headbutting each
Clashing
other.
heads.
You didn't just go.
Mate.
Yeah.
So, yeah, is there anything else that you want to go
yeah,
through
so
with
I
confidence?
think for me there was a time in my life when I remember feeling very unconfident, and then a phase where I feel like I'm quite confident now, and I think for me that's going from being chubby kid to being seen as the person who's like, oh, Johnny's massive, like he goes to the gym, all that sort of stuff. And so for me, I think strength training's always been something that's allowed me to build my confidence in like a very like contained way, because you have a series of experiences which is like, I can't do that, oh, I've done it, oh, that didn't go very well, but I've succeeded anyway. And it's just a series
So
of
that you've touched on two separate elements there. One of them is about your intrinsic successes, which are meaningful to you.
yeah
The other one was to do with other people's perception of you.
yeah
Now, if anyone is trying to get their confidence to rely on other people's perceptions of them, you're building a house on very, very shaky foundations.
I agree, but I think for a lot of people, so a lot of people I know who I would perceive to be confident strength train.
So that's a really interesting thing as well, because if somebody, I think the strength training is the initial precipitant to gaining confidence, but then it depends from that point how much it hinges on that by how much they invest their identity in that. Yeah. So you have like the power lifter who like has all the gear and really invests their identity in the bald beard, like
Top knot.
top knot, listening to metal, like, and really invest their identity as like the power lifter. And then if they have an injury or whatever and they can't do that thing, it can go one of two ways. It can either be that they've built up their confidence and it's ratcheted up, and they've
Leveraged.
they've proved to themselves that they have competence to then expand to other things, or they invested so heavily in that identity that, and I think it might have been Eric Helms actually, or someone said to hedge. It was Eric Helms. Hedge your identity across multiple things, so that, because he was like, I'm not always going to be a bodybuilder, and at some point I'm going to be old and fat, so if I
need to add value in other areas,
I have
as well.
to, otherwise if I just go balls in on that thing,
It's like I am Johnny and I powerlift versus I'm Johnny the powerlifter. Are two very different realities.
But that's why I like the idea of the top knot for you.
Just hedges my personality.
Well, no, it's kind of, but it's because it makes you more of an enigma. It's look at all of these things. So well written, well spoken, well educated, chartered accountant, but then also able to pick up 310 kilos. Fuck, he's got a top knot as well.
Yeah, creates this like, who the hell?
Oh my god, what the fuck? Oh! Yeah, just getting pedal dashed with. So this, I don't think we've actually even touched on.
That's
this.
another Don Miguel Ruiz thing. Don't allow people to put you in a box. Don't be categorizable.
I think
Create
that's,
your own box.
I think being multifaceted. So some people are, by their very nature, are within a cookie cutter mold. Some people have to fall within that.
Yeah.
I really want to do. This is quite a nice and positive one for me because of my natural temperament. I That wasn't that loud. That was loud. Yeah. I've got a depressive personality sometimes, and one of the things that I really, really want to do a podcast on is Why We're Fated to Be Lonely, which is a YouTube video done by Alain de Botton from School of Life. And as a part of that, one of the things he says is that the more subtle and unique, like the more subtle and mindful your views are, the fewer people are going to be like you in society. And given the choice between honesty and acceptability, most of us understandably choose the latter. But again, with that, if you have this multifaceted, slightly contrary, slightly subtle, different worldview, presuming that it's not going to offend anyone or get you in jail, might be an idea to try and speak it forth, because it'll open up some other people's eyes. And
especially with the internet, you will find people that resonate with you.
100%.
You
Across time.
find people who love you, people who hate you, and people who love you.
Yeah, it polarizes opinion. One of the things we haven't really touched on yet, I don't think at all in this, I think the podcast I started doing Modern Wisdom in the post JBP world. So Jordan Peterson, who has been a guiding force for me in understanding myself, and I think you guys to a degree as well. One of the key habits that he asks people to cultivate is to clean up their room. And what he says is that,
Bloody hell, clean your room!
I mean, people, these kids, they're 18 and they want to go out and change the world, and they've got dirty socks on their room.
How can you opine about the economic state of the world when you can't even clean your room?
What he says is that your bedroom is a domain of competence within everybody's capacity. So everyone can clean their room. Like, unless you're one of those people out of like hoarders, like you can clean your room.
You could have a disability.
Okay. Thanks. It's made me feel really. There's ever a way to shake the confidence. Most people, a large majority of people, can clean their room, and
Might be blind.
Thanks, John.
Well, that's offensive to blind people who can't clean their room.
No, it's not.
Because they're going to say, well...
I'm blind.
I just said might be blind. I didn't say blind people can't clean their room.
Well, you implied that, and they're going to say...
An implication is a very personal thing. Like, what you've taken as my implication might not be what I imply.
I'm responsible for what I say, not what you understand.
I choose my words very carefully.
Yeah. Very, very, very precise.
You saw was it you that sent me the WEP?
Yeah.
That was brilliant.
Yeah.
So, as you know, like I have mixed feelings about him, but things like that are brilliant.
I think you had fewer mixed feelings about Jordan Peterson before you read his book.
Yeah, 100%.
The book for me as well, it's been really, really difficult going. Anyway, so he talks about your bedroom is a domain of competence, and once you've mastered that, you can then look to expand. Okay, so what else can I clean up?
Kitchen.
Maybe I can go kitchen. Maybe I can go into the living room. Maybe I can help someone else with their bedroom or their problems or whatever it might be. And it's starting in a domain that is a safe space, so to speak. It's something that you know that you can get mastery over pretty quickly, and you build the brick on top of that. And the powerlifting analogy that you used for yourself seems a little bit like that. It's a domain of competence that you are capable within. Now, obviously, it's by virtue of gravity, it can be quite hard.
Gets progressively harder as well.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Because you put more weight on, which to me seems because you
you've
picked it up.
already done the weight. Why
You
make
picked
it
it up.
heavier?
Now you've
already done it.
It was
Make
hard.
harder then.
It was
Yeah.
hard, and then you put more weight on and you picked it up again.
And sometimes you have to do it more than one time. And
That seems almost
pointless.
ridiculous. Because you put it down in the same place
every single time and pick it up in exactly the same way.
Yeah.
I think that creates certainly you almost witness it. Like we see it with our clients, don't you? They become different people
So much. And I
they
don't
go
think it's
through-
because of the muscle mass. It's because, as you said, they've proven to themselves that they can be competent in something, and they extrapolate that to other
Challenging. And
you
that's
go
why
from like I'm overweight, I don't like how I look, to like, oh my god,
I have the capacity for change.
I've done this.
Yeah.
I look totally different. What else can I do?
Yeah.
So it's self-belief, I think, rather than
self-efficacy, isn't it?
Yeah, that is true.
like I've done what I said I would.
But how does
Like,
how does that manifest itself moving forward in confidence? Confidence is the meta term.
I think it's just believing that you can go do something,
enact change
and complete it.
successfully.
Yeah. So that's the same as like, you go into a job interview and you'd think, I'm going to do well here, rather than, oh, I'm not worth the job. And someone who's like got a gold medal at Worlds probably has quite a lot of like, I'll be all right with that.
Yeah.
Versus someone who's like never tested their physical abilities or pushed themselves outside their comfort zone.
So I'm sure that there must be people who are potentially not on the physical side, but cerebrally testing themselves very heavily.
Yeah.
Someone who's studying for a crazy research degree or whatever it might be, and these people are overcoming obstacles in a similar manner.
Well, so I was going to say, there's a high suicide rate in Cambridge University, for example, of people who like, and they tend to be the highest performers that are so hard on themselves for not living up to high expectations.
Standards up here. And
yeah. So I wonder what's going on there.
I did an Instagram post that concluded with something along the lines of the line between self-motivation and self-compassion is a lot wider than you think. And I think that a lot of the time people can confuse being compassionate with themselves with not having drive to be better. So allowing yourself to, you've had confidence to go into a situation, that situation didn't turn out the way that you wanted. Okay, how should I then rediscipline myself after this situation's occurred?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. If I don't beat myself up, then how am I going to...
I'm not going to learn. I'm going to think that like this was an acceptable outcome despite the fact it wasn't the outcome that I wanted. And you go, well...
They're mutually exclusive.
Yeah. The best way to do that, and one of the tactics that I've been using more recently for this has been treat yourself as if you were a friend that you were responsible for helping. Again, another Jordan Peterson rule. And
you wouldn't lay into them all the time. You'd be like, look, here are your faults. Here's how you can improve them, rather than
let's make a plan to make it better. Rather
than remind them every day you're a dickhead. You're a dickhead.
Yeah. Because like a lot of the time I'll think like, what would you say if one of your friends came to you with this particular problem? What would you say to them? And you know, if you can, if one of your friends came up to you and you were like, what were you laughing?
It just reminded me of in Life Hacks 103. Give it a listen. Great episode. Was when Jonny said sometimes if you have multiple captures across different things, or you've captured but then you forgot to review the capture, and then it's your brain's way of being like, haha, dickhead. Like, you forgot to action this, and now
I was listening to that. Yeah.
Now you're paying for the.
I had an experience the other day, and I remember your voice came into my head of, I made a reminder, so I use Siri. So I use hey Siri. Remind me to, and it misinterpreted it. The reminder came up 9 a.m. next morning, looked at it, and I'm like...
No idea what it is. That happens to me
your
all
voice
the time.
came into my head, I was like...
Ask the Gestapo, what is that? And you're like...
Yeah.
And you just feel worse.
Because you remember, I really
had to remember.
There's something I had to remember. I set a reminder for it, and I've got no idea what it is because Siri can't decipher my words.
Then you get a call 2 weeks later from your dentist being like, we're going to have to discharge you from our clinic because you're not attending for something. You're like, damn it, fuck!
So someone who has a really interesting perspective on like self-management, Jocko Willink.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's just so far over on the like redlining end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Like his Instagram, every other post on Instagram is his watch at 4 a.m, like 4:01, 4 a.m, 3:59 when he wakes up.
Yeah.
And then there's a photo of a pool of sweat where he's been entrained, and he just puts the aftermath. And he had a video about like what to do when things aren't going well in your life. It's like, you didn't get that job, your girlfriend broke up with you, like, good. Like, your business failed, good. You're fat and out of shape, good. He's like, reload, regroup.
He's a
fucking get after it.
He's a fucking animal.
Well, he's a fucking Navy SEAL.
Yeah, he is.
So, but part of me thinks like, if you just treat yourself like a drill sergeant the whole time, there's probably not even time to be like, I'm a weak piece of shit, because you just always...
You've already been... You're doing burpees on Tynemouth Beach, aren't you?
You're just knackered all the time, but you're like, I've just got to fucking keep getting
after it.
Like, what would Jocko do? What would Jocko do?
Do you know space for, like, chatter?
Do you know what it is? Gary V is a pussy version of Jocko Willink.
They're very similar, yeah, very similar.
I'm going to have to subscribe to Jocko.
Except Gary's like, just post on Instagram, Gary Vaynerchuk. And Jocko Willink's like, fuck you, get to the gym, it's 4 a.m. Don't press snooze. Get up, you bastard. Yeah. I wonder what would happen if they met.
Gary Vaynerchuk.
They probably agree on a lot of things.
I really, really hope Jocko Willink punches Gary Vaynerchuk in the face. He's just so irritating.
So if you listen to some of the experiences as a Navy SEAL that Jocko's had, you do think like if you've been in those sorts of scenarios, anything else is just an absolute insignificance. Like
the Fight Club thing is that like when you've been in a fight that morning, everything else the rest of the day
it has
just
the
gets
noise
tuned
changed down.
down. Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
and like I think there is an element to that.
But this is one of the things you can't expedite life experience. To a degree, you can try and cram it in, but there's a required time and attention that you need to go through
for something to really
sink in. Yeah, 100%, because you need, it's not just the time that it takes. It's not just having the experience. It's then the reflective period of the experience, then the experience again with a new set of eyes and new approach. And
So do you think that is what explains the general increase in people's confidence with age? Like, do you think it's because
100%.
there's time available for those experiences to be processed, or do you think there's some kind of thing inherent to aging that causes it?
No, I think it's that if you have a smaller sample size, something going incredibly well or incredibly badly is more of an outlier than if you then...
Okay, you've got more of a
We've
bank of
seen it all before,
experiences that
like,
happen.
oh, here we are again. It was
Oh,
okay
hang on,
last time.
I thought this was 105% greatness. Actually, in 10 years' time, I've realised that wasn't even a 50% of greatness.
So you're just much more. So I guess you become more cynical, but also more calm about things because it's just like, well,
You're just more measured.
Just the same.
It's being
same
measured.
experience.
same old,
Yeah, it's being measured about experiences, and this is one of the things that's very liberating for me personally, as a single guy getting older now. As I'm 30, you can walk into a club or walk into a bar or whatever it might be, and previously you walk up to a group of like, I don't know, your early 20s guys, and previously there'd be this sort of chest up, dick measuring kind of, what do you do? What do you do? Like that kind of thing. And now
So I'm interested in your progression of this.
it's just now you can kind of have a smug sense of satisfaction as you get older. It's the one thing, like time is the one thing that we don't get any of it back. It's also the one thing that's you can't cheat it either way. You can't make yourself younger and you can't make yourself older. And it means that it's kind of...
Nivea have those products.
Well, I've been using Clarins for men for
Olay.
years.
Olay.
Oil of Olay.
Olay.
All of you lay. So did you used to ever experience that situation, walking up to a group of guys? You said so you wouldn't experience anxiety per se, but it was more of
massively.
Oh, okay. And then
anxiety.
the I guess the compensation is that.
Yeah, a little bit.
But you used to be, I suppose. And then
I think definitely I was an only child, which means that your socialization is very, very different to someone that's got siblings, like incredibly different. And I think definitely to a degree, it meant that I was probably slower to socialize, and also saw it more as an experiment and more as a list of inputs and outputs, something to be mindful of, rather than a natural part of day-to-day discourse. Because for me, growing up, I'd play a lot of sports, and those would be my brothers and sisters, so to speak. But a lot of that stuff didn't come naturally to me, so I had to cultivate it, which actually allows...
reveal how far on the spectrum we all are. Of like, I saw social interaction as a series of inputs and outputs.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, it is like I can't make a pretense about the fact that it came naturally to me.
Do you think it's autistic to even think I want to get better at my ability to socialize?
No.
You don't?
No.
Do you think so? The thought I always have is like, I have this like stock guy in my head who's like similar age to me. All they care about is like beer and the football match and like Pop Idol and all these sorts of things. I'm aware that Pop Idol. You see what they did?
Jesus.
So, and like wouldn't even consider like getting an Audible account, or does it even cross their mind? Like, I'd like to improve my ability to socialize with other people.
So that's the unconscious grace thing, that there's a natural, because I think social intelligence is so independent of normal intelligence that you can have, and you've met people that are like, you wouldn't class them as the brightest tool in the shed, but they're so
like great
emotionally intelligent,
incredibly engaging. Yeah.
And I guess if you make them start like dissecting it, actually it's probably going to take things apart.
Well, again, you have people.
They see the truth.
You know, a good example of this. We're talking about strength sports. Dmitry Klokov has a a very unconventional style of lifting. His feet are too close together. Sometimes one's in front of the other.
Got bowed legs, doesn't he?
Yeah, well, he lifts it in
Russian.
He does lift Russian.
Cheating.
He lifts in a style which a coach would come over and say, well, this is wrong and this is wrong and this is wrong. But naturally, he's very capable within the domain of competence.
How much you snatch?
Yeah,
I snatch more.
Yeah, with one arm.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just some people have this natural ability, but you're right. Like some people, quite rightly so, don't want to cultivate.
Well, they don't have to systematize it. It can just be.
Well, no, they just don't want to. Maybe they're bad socially and they don't care, or maybe they're bad socially and they have no desire to get better.
So is that confidence?
So that, but yeah,
because then being bad socially, but not caring.
Actually, is that desirable?
But again, I think confidence can be broken down to a lack of attachment to the outcome of something. So if you are not bothered about whether or not it goes well or goes badly,
it can all be explained by.
Yeah. Well, I suppose actually the I guess the safety catch on that is that if you're bad socially, like you're socially anxious, but you don't care about it, then you wouldn't be socially anxious because social anxiety.
That's the self-correcting mechanism.
Yeah. So.
But maybe all you care about is like Warcraft, and like when you're socially anxious, all you're thinking about is Warcraft. So you're like, I'm socially anxious, but I genuinely
Warcraft's
just want to go home and play.
Can we do a episode on how to become more confident within Warcraft?
Within the Warcraft domain.
Oh, that's Warhammer. Sorry, Warcraft is the digital online
MMORPG.
Oh my god.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one more question, so if you are seeking advice from people,
yeah,
how does that fit into your definitions of confidence?
Can you explain what I'm not really sure what you mean.
So seeking advice, getting a coach.
No, I know what you mean by that.
How does that fit in with the sense of like? So if self-efficacy and self-assuredness is all about being comfortable with your decisions and knowing that, how does then seeking advice from other people,
being comfortable? What is going on here?
It's all about my tricanda.
Isn't that your bursa?
So the bursa is involved.
Right. Okay.
The bursa is involved. Yeah.
Okay.
Which is either a sack of fluid or someone who manages the finances of a school.
Okay. So I think that when you're talking about confidence, an admission that you want to better yourself without feeling silly or concerned about the process that you're going to go through is absolutely a part of that.
Okay, because I suppose that even in seeking advice, there's a spectrum of like being an asshole and just asking for the sake of it, or going overboard, asking advice but not actually taking any of it and just using it as a procrastination tool, or asking so that it confirms your existing view, which is confirmation bias, or it's totally what's the word? Unbiased, like asking for advice and then taking.
But what's more liberating than you thinking to yourself, okay, I need to get better at X. I'm going to ask a question about it. That's what requires more confidence than that.
So I think that has
level of vulnerability
to sit with, just like backing yourself. That if you're told to do something, like if you ask for advice and someone gives you advice and you trust that person, you're like,
go for it.
Okay.
So
you're like, I want fashion.
That's
advice.
confidence in them, right?
I suppose it's accurately assessing your. So, like for example, we were like, okay, our fashion ability is quite low. We know someone who we can assess. It has a more complete understanding of that. Outsource.
Yeah.
So being objective with yourself as much as possible.
I guess so. Yeah.
Trying to say, where am I weak? Where am I strong?
Yeah.
Where can I?
But again, with that comes back to being able to be truthful. Because one of the problems I played a role for a very, very long time. The one that ended up manifesting itself on Love Island. And oddly enough was highlighted to myself internally so starkly that it was what made me realise, right, you need to actually try and find out who the fuck you are. Because it's not that person. You thought it might have been, but it's definitely fucking not. And 3 weeks with 100 cameras on you has made it quite apparent. I think that I spent an awful lot of time pretending to be something that I wasn't. And that series of lying meant that I actually didn't know what I was good and what I wasn't good at. Like, how was I able to work out which elements of my life needed work when everything was a lie? The lies and the fronting and the facade and the veneer had become so much a part of me that I didn't know where I finished. I didn't know where I finished and it began.
So it's because I mean people I suppose have different like so you go through a horrible traumatic experience or
protection,
whatever, and suddenly you're forced to reveal the true you. And for you, that was Love Island. Well, but seriously though, like you're like, here I am in this world, and I'm realizing, like, holy shit, the person that I've been trying to like put out to the world, I can't sustain.
Yeah.
So there has to be a gap between Love Island Chris and real Chris.
Yeah.
And other people like are in a plane crash or get marooned on an island, and you went on a reality TV show. But
I went on an island.
It's all the same thing.
I was marooned on an island.
Is it actually just an island?
Well, it's Mallorca.
All right.
Which is an island.
It's a nice place to be marooned on.
It's all right.
You weren't marooned.
I wasn't marooned, and you're not going to be marooned either anymore.
No more maroon.
But only because he has confidence in you.
He does.
And his ability to follow the advice.
Right. Anything else? Any closing thoughts?
I think we covered some pretty good ground in that, and that was a lovely run through of definitions, different domains of confidence, and what you've done. Because I think I was excited to do this episode to see what your evolution has been and how you see the whole discipline of confidence being the person who I think is the most, at least the most confident person that I know personally. Like going to Iceland,
it's a lovely
for example.
accolade.
Well, like, so we went to Iceland together, the three of us, and I remember just it was ridiculous. Like, but I suppose like a club is your
that's your thing,
stomping ground, isn't it?
That's your jam.
But it's the same. If you were
like the guy that started on you, there's several women flocking to you. Like, it was all quite.
I started on you in Iceland.
When he tried to get us off his table.
In Iceland?
Yeah, when we were in that bar.
Knobhead, it was like...
And he was like, I've bought this single bottle.
Oh, yeah.
That's going to come over. And the doorman realised...
You're like, okay.
All right. yeah, that made him feel silly.
I don't think it was like, all right, then do you want to speak to... I can't remember how it
was. What was so funny about that, looking back, actually, was I felt a sense of total calm. Because I was just like, Chris has dealt with this
a million times,
thousands of times.
It was a pissed up 22-year-old who'd bought a single bottle of Smirnoff and thought that somehow gave him right to move me off his table.
Yeah,
he did physically try and push you off.
He did, and then the doorman put his hand in the way in between both of us and said, basically, sort of waggled his finger at him. This is obviously a kid who goes to the club a fair bit and had misbehaved. So the doorman had done that. So I put my hand on his back and I said, "You just listen to your dad, yeah? That'll crack on."
That was it.
Yeah, and you just listen to your boss. And then, just waited there, finished my drink, put my drink back down on his table, and then left.
Yeah, it was just a feeling of like, I'm trying to think of an example. It's like being in a plane crash, but the pilot's got it.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's like, this is not like that guy has no idea how many times Chris has dealt with people like him in situations like this. Yeah. And then it all worked out fine.
The fact that he's Icelandic made no difference.
Exposure,
just exposure. Yeah,
it's time and attention. Right.
I think I would like to part with start with something. Like, if you feel like you're lacking confidence, start with trying to do something just yourself, like the make your bed example, and prove to yourself that you can achieve something. Prove to yourself that you can be consistent with something that you set yourself to do.
I wonder if that ice cream van's been picked up on the
Mr. Whippy.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Advice
So
there.
find a domain of competence and start to push it a little bit.
And prove to yourself that you can do something that you maybe don't feel like you can. And then over time, as a result of doing that, you become a different person and start to set the bar slightly higher and slightly higher until one day you're doing things that, like, 2 years ago, you never have thought.
Well,
and that breeds confidence.
That's a good point to make it progressive as well, because I think if you suddenly hold yourself to standards that are way above your current level, like the Cambridge suicides, like, you're only going to fall short of it.
Yeah.
As opposed to, I think that's
begin with
nice
your domain of
build
competence.
Build momentum in improving yourself.
This is, again, another... People just need to read my Instagram more. There's a things become thoughts as opposed to thoughts become things. And it's, if you spend the entire day, there's no difference between the girl who spends the entire day ruminating about going to the gym, obsessing, listening to a gym playlist to amp herself up and using up every ounce of willpower to get herself to the gym.
The action precedes the thought.
And the girl who just gets in the car and ends up at the gym. The only difference is one of them's used up a fuck ton of willpower and energy getting there.
There was something you said to me, this is not really related. I have an Evernote, which is things I've learned from my friends,
Right.
like lessons. It was something you said to me. It was in the same conversation where you initially said that to me.
Yeah.
Where it was something about my shoelaces. And it was like, I was like, it's okay because there's a process. Because if I trip on my shoelaces, I know to tie them up. And you said like, yes, but if you act on the react and the result rather than the.
I can't remember.
That doesn't
I don't remember that one. That's like when I quoted you to Corey Allen and you had absolutely no idea whether or not you'd said it. Did I say that? I think I did.
But yeah, I remember you saying like, because at the time I was being really inconsistent with my training, and you used that as an example. Like, there's no, like, you don't have to make fanfare about it. Just
do it.
Just start doing something.
Just do it. Yeah, and the same thing. So I think you're totally right. To begin, I think confidence needs to be a belief that your capacity is greater than what you think it is, or it's greater than what you believe it to be currently. That if you were presented with a challenge, that there is a fair chance that you may be able to overcome it.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you will be okay.
Yeah. Or you'll figure it out.
Yeah.
No matter what happens, yeah.
So I'm going to go to the gym. Today I'm going to try and PR. I'm going to pick up 315 kilos. I didn't pick up 315 kilos. Okay, what can we learn from that?
Yeah.
So I think begin with the domain of competence. Fucking clean your room up. Like, honestly, it's the single biggest impact that I've been able to have has been making my bed every day. And this is a combination, actually, of the video of the naval officer that went viral online.
Talking about cleaning your
Goalcast.
bed.
He just talks about making your bed. And that's like 50 million views. If you haven't seen it, search Goalcast. I think it'll come up.
It's like first win of the day
on Facebook. Yeah, you've nailed it. You've already started the day well. Right, my bed's made. And then the nicest thing, the nicest footnote is he goes, and if your day has been completely shit and everything's gone wrong, you come home to a made bed.
Yeah.
And you're like, do you know what it is? Yes, that is.
So I think for me, really, what I get out of morning routines, training in the morning or anything like that is a feeling of confidence.
Yeah.
Is like, by 9 a.m, I've done everything I wanted to do. The chances of me having a good day, to me, just how I feel, are higher.
You're on a roll.
And even if it goes shit, you get to the end of the day and you're like, yeah, but I nailed this morning.
I think for me, definitely as well, one of my keystone habits is getting up early and getting my morning routine right, because the opposite is true as well. When you start the day badly, you frame everything within, oh shit, well, if I hadn't got up late, if I hadn't done this, that and the other, everything's jaded with this really, really bad view, as opposed to doing it the other way, which is, I'm going to get after it. Oh, well, this didn't go as well as I thought, but I'm going to have it. Like, I'm going to get after this task. This situation isn't beyond my domain of competence, or even if it is, I'm still going to be able to crush it. So
yeah, waking up early, because even then, like, it gets to 3 PM and you're like, I feel a bit tired. I'm not gonna. Oh no, hold on. Like, today's going so well, it'd be a shame to ruin it.
Yeah,
I'll just do it anyway.
Let's keep the run.
And it almost just keeps you in this little pathway until the end of the day. Like, what a great day! I can relax. I'm allowed to relax because
I deserve it.
Yeah.
So
just wake up.
Domain of competence. It's like get after it.
Instagram it.
Instagram it.
Little digital watch.
Domain of competence. Start with something that you know that you can conquer, and then start to push that progressive overload.
Yeah.
I think definitely being prepared to put yourself into situations that you wouldn't normally be in without any preconception of a desire or a requirement for success, or a requirement for an outcome that you would derive as success within that, to believe it's successful. Like, just going on a night out and being in a social situation is tick that one off the list. Like, cool, okay, I've spent a bit of time under tension there. Like, I've learned some things. How can I then, next time I go out, I'll try and do something else.
Yeah.
Again, if you can systematize it as best as possible, if you need to cultivate a capacity within a social environment, get a couple of buddies, or go to a networking event, or do whatever it is that you can do that routinizes, systematizes, habituates the time and attention. Because if you have to make that decision every single time, then you're going to end up using a shitload of willpower to go. But if your friends have already organised to go out for some dinner this evening with my friends, I can't say no, and then you're there, and then it rolls into drinks, and before you know it, you're in a bar talking to some people that you've never met before. Sweet. Whereas if you've got to drag yourself out of, oh, well, I hadn't planned to go out, and I've got to drag myself out of bed on my own, and I've got to go and randomly talk to these people, like,
creating like an architecture around your day and week that makes good decisions easy and bad decisions hard.
Stack the deck in your favour.
Yeah.
100%. And then I genuinely think that the power stance thing's a big deal. Like if you walk into a bar, like it can be subtly, and I used to do it subtly, sort of go in and you'd stand feet apart, like shoulders back, chest forward. And if you do that for about 30 seconds, you do feel a little bit, I don't know whether it's placebo, but you just think, fucking hell, yeah, like I don't have anything to be concerned about in this situation. I can talk to people and they're going to be responsive to me, and they're going to like me, and even if they don't, then so what? Like, because I'm happy with me, and yeah, it's.
I think I realise I'm extending this when we're trying to wrap up, but I think like in that example, feeling confident socially, for me, I've noticed there's a fluctuation in my confidence where I get my value from in my personality, different aspects of my life. Like if those are going well, I feel higher sense of self-worth, more confidence. If like business is crap, training's crap, I've had an argument with Becca, like, and you go out that night, I immediately feel totally different.
Yeah.
Because people are going to inevitably go like, how's such and such?
Like,
not
it's one of those. It's one of those things, right? Like you,
fantastic.
Yeah,
bloody great.
Other than like, I'm the fucking ultimate king, like, you know,
yeah.
Which is obviously how I feel every other day.
Yeah. Well, the rest of the time after a green smoothie. Yeah, I think you're right. It's difficult to have this indomitable spirit where nothing extrinsic will affect what's going on inside your mind. And I mean, you can meditate sitting down in silence, right? Okay, now can you meditate standing up? Now can you meditate walking? Now can you increase the level of difficulty. If you have the capacity to still be confident and still be outgoing and forthcoming and self-believing
under greater and greater tensions
that would suggest your natural proclivity to the contrary. That's real true confidence. And I think that's I'm not advising at all to try and make things in your life go really terribly badly just to see if you can still remain confident in them. Like, don't crash your car and then say, well, I'll see if I can still talk to people on a night out. Yeah. Like, that would be a bad idea.
Have you seen the video of the very British reaction to a car accident? The guy's car like goes on its side, like that's like merge lanes, car tips over, and there's a guy who rushes over, and he's going, oh my god, he's like, okay, I'm uninjured. Let's stay calm about this.
No anger.
Is this the guy? Is he at 90 degrees?
Yeah. Just so relaxed.
Fine.
It's interesting because I forget sometimes that Yusef's done 500 hours of meditation.
Yeah.
And
no, but I get really angry on the road. Like if
you do.
As a cyclist, I've shouted at so many people.
But that wasn't what I was going to meet. Okay. That was what I was going to say. It's if something. So in the context of like in a little world of propane, like little tiny things go wrong all the time.
Yeah.
Yusef's ability to just
Fine. But again, so let's bring this back. We can talk very briefly, we can touch on confidence in a business perspective. A lot of people that are listening may have desires to run their own business or have their own projects on the side. And this can apply to within your family. Your family is a project in and of itself. You've got a young child.
Your careers count as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Remember how big of a catastrophe it was when something went wrong 5 years ago in your business.
Oh.
And then think about the same thing happening now. You just think
our first refund request.
What were we talking about before? It's this ability to have perspective. It's the time and attention. It's that when your sample size is only 1 year long, the outliers that are at 0% and 100% look fucking mental. And then as the sample grows bigger and bigger, you actually realize that 0 and 100 were below the interquartile range.
Yeah,
they were like fucking 49 and 51. And you think, hang on, look at how much more I can ride the waves. In fact, the book, the Confidence book by School of Life, which is actually 20%. This is not in any way affiliated.
The promo code.
But it's 20% off at the moment if you just buy
/Chris.
It just happens to be Chris 20. But that's nothing to do with me. It's just
the front cover of the book is a
picture.
It's me going. It's a galleon ship on waves.
Right.
And it's that exact thing. It's that your capacity to ride the waves of life is very relative. Like what may seem like a massive wave now is actually
So I think one of the qualities that I find most admirable and impressive in people is resilience to things.
Yeah.
Like something goes catastrophically wrong, and someone's just like, oh, it's fine,
whatever.
And I think business is a good example because things can go like vertically, like the wrong way instantly.
Yeah.
And if you have enough experiences of that at a greater magnitude over time, I think you just become, there's a level where you just become
it's
totally
domain of competence again, right? That issue is within what you would consider to be. I've dealt with this before.
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
Don't
Remember you saying Darren's like that?
He's just an absolute animal.
Just like.
Yeah, well, like he just takes it on the chin. But he's always been like that. He's always been like that. He's never had the level of neuroticism that I have. We're going to do one of the upcoming podcasts that we're going to do is going to be on the truths about running your own business, and I think that a lot of it.
Yeah, really excited for that.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. So we had the conversation when you were going to leave.
Sat there.
That chartered accountant company, and you were sat down there. So. Yeah, I think definitely resilience is a big deal. And
I think if you are in a position where you're like, you hear the concept of fuck you money.
You've got fuck you money.
Like there's like, I think it might be The Gambler or something, film with Mark Wahlberg in.
Okay.
And his mentor's like, get fuck you money. Like get £1 million in the bank and then you're untouchable. Like no one can make you do anything.
Yeah.
It's the most powerful anxiolytic is
just having fuck you money. Yeah. So like if you're financially secure and something bad happens in a business or a career, because really like business is a representation of like financial security.
Your finances, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's very like something bad happens. Oh God.
Yeah, you feel it.
Whereas Yusef just stood there in his Captain Hook outfit at the helm, while like in a storm, and he's just.
Yeah.
Have you seen the film Everest?
Yes.
So you know when the famous writer is getting picked up. In fact, this should be included in the show notes, this clip, because this is confidence. He's getting picked up from Everest in a helicopter by like a really like skilled pilot. And the helicopter's going like all over the place.
It's at the very start, right?
No, it's after this guy's injured.
Oh, okay. Right.
And it flashes to the helicopter pilot's face and he's just no emotion.
I swear it's at the start. I swear it's at the very, very beginning. It's the first one, I think, yeah. And he's like going around and he's just completely stoic.
And he goes like, I'm going to push off the edge and then we'll go into vertical dive and then it'll be fine. Is that okay with you? And the guy's like, he's like, good man.
Thing is, like,
it's like that. It's like the bus driver in Iceland.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, remember like we're going to, and the guy's just like.
So just to clarify, to context, guys, we were in the biggest storm of the year in Iceland, and we happened to be out the Blue Lagoon, just like playing around in the water. But like from here below, it was nice and warm and lovely, and then from up top.
Well, that was the thing. I was dilated and vascular from the chest down, and then like blue from the chest up.
Just an Avatar character,
naughty nips and red face and everything.
And then when we were told that. The pool is closing in half an hour, and by the way, any buses that leave after half an hour you will have to stay here overnight.
Oh God!
I remember seeing the strongest visual representation of your fear of wasting money. As me and Chris are sat in the pool, and they go, right guys, we're closing the saunas. And you're like, oh, I've not been in the sauna. So running in Chris's flowery shorts over this bridge in a blizzard in Iceland. Just to have a go in the sauna.
Oh, yeah.
You couldn't bear to miss out.
It's the most lukewarm little sauna as well.
But yeah, so like everyone's fucking like panicking.
So we're driving back. We're back on the bus.
So it's before then, we're getting on the bus and someone goes like, apparently they've closed the roads. And the guy's like, close the roads? This is Iceland. You're like, you are a monster.
Fucking great.
Just drive through traffic cones. No problem.
That was the thing. So we got on the bus and we were sat at the back. I don't know why we chose to sit at the back.
Oh yeah,
we feel safer, doesn't it? It's like naughty schoolboys.
Yeah. So we were sat at the back of this bus, and I've still got the screenshot on my phone of the weather app where it said 43 miles an hour, 43 miles an hour winds, and they were completely adjacent to the path that we were travelling in. So this high-sided 72-person seater coach. And this guy, and I thought
he didn't compromise on speed at all.
No, not at all. I mean, if anything, he used it as a sail, didn't he? And he used it to go quicker. Angled himself into the corners and let it. Yeah. So, and we were like, the bus was getting really buffeted, and it's high side. We were shitting ourselves, and I thought, right, well, my solution is if I walk to the front of this bus and I look at the bus driver, and he's okay, I'm okay. That's
He had like a smile on his
That's
face.
outsourcing, right? That's outsourcing to someone with a speciality.
Man who's done it before.
Man who looked like Captain Hook.
Yes,
And
yes,
so
yes.
walk down to the front of the bus, expecting to see at least a small amount of concern.
Grimace.
on
You just
his
want to
face,
see, like,
as he was just sat there like this.
He was in great spirits. And you talk to him, and he's like,
Yeah.
because everyone was getting off and going like, "Thank you." He's like, "It's okay. It's okay."
He's Iceland. Yeah.
And the only time of the trip that you looked more alarmed was when you saw the price for the lamb broth.
"Oh, £17.50
I know, it was
for a small cup of lamb
What was the
broth."
ready meal? Buying that ready
That was
meal.
20 quid for a supermarket ready meal.
What about the
£20.
Bloody Mary?
Oh,
that's
man, see, guys, I'm so triggered right now. We have to end the podcast because I'm getting too upset.
Looking back, there were so many.
So this is one of the examples of everything just going fine for Chris. Like we went to a tomato farm, which was on affiliate commission from the coach tour company.
Someone's dad's greenhouse.
And they were, we're just going to stop off at the tomato farm. We recommend you buy a lovely tomato drink or beverage of some sort. So I got this weird, like, sweet Bloody Mary with lemon and ginger, but it was actually awful.
Bit of celery in it.
It was, really diluted. And then Chris got the nicest tomato soup ever for half the price. And I'm sat there drinking my, like, £12 horrible drink.
Well, and like you and I brought insufficient clothing. Neither of us remembered our headphones. We sat together. Chris was 3 or 4 seats in front.
Just Kenny.
Canada Goose, zipped all the way up, AirPods in, fast asleep. Like,
I had a stonking hangover there.
and that was the morning where I was sleeping in the living room. Woke up to watch you try and navigate the portable hob, and the first thing you said to me was, "I'm making myself an egg. Would you like an egg?"
So it must have been the following morning that you just woken up to like, and if you get toe cancer, then that metastasizes
To the shin, goes up to neck cancer, head cancer.
And then you revising in the middle of
Because
Iceland.
I walked into
and, like-
his room, and he sat on the bed just going. And I was like, "What's wrong, man?" He's like, "I've just been upsold." I'm like, "What do you mean you've just been upsold?" He was like, "I tried to get P's, and they've sold me an annual membership, and I don't need an annual membership."
That's a lack of confidence.
It was just I couldn't
The
pass
egg
up
shower
discount.
that you had to kneel in.
The egg
And-
shower, it was very sulphury.
Oh,
Anyone who
yeah.
hasn't been to Iceland before, the water is
fucking
incredibly
egg water.
sulphury.
So smelly.
Yeah.
Like you think that the drains are coming back up the shower, but then they're like, no, this is Icelandic water. They put the word Icelandic in front of any product.
Icelandic butter.
Icelandic chocolate,
yeah.
like, and then
Licorice.
I mean, it's just normal.
Remember the
product.
waterfall? You remember how cold the waterfall
That was the coldest part of the trip. Gullfoss.
Oh yeah.
And
Gullfoss.
there's a photo of you with the Chinese lady.
No, that was at the bit where they drowned people. That was where the parliament was. Like in like the 1600s.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God,
That was strange. Anyway, confidence. Hope everyone's enjoyed.
Go to Iceland.
Go to Iceland if you do well.
Go to
lots
the
of
Penis
clothes.
Museum.
Go to the Penis Museum. Don't buy the lamb broth. Don't buy the Bloody Mary. Don't go during a storm.
Don't think that like mine. Oh, it's 1 degree. I've dealt with that before. I'll just go out wearing a shirt.
That was what me and you did.
I honestly think I was close to.
I'd never
going
seen you so sad.
some kind of shock. Yeah,
Yeah.
and of course you were fine.
I was fine. Yeah, I was fine. So, for the first time, make sure that you subscribe, YouTube, press the like button, comment if you've got any comments, or catch us on Instagram, Twitter, all that other stuff. Okay, bye then.
Okay, bye then.
Okay, bye then.